Welcome to Miyconst Hardware, and today is the day when I'm going to reveal the test results for my test, where I will do some giveaway of some hardware. If you're interested to get to know how you could participate in this test, then there is a link in the stream description where you can see my announcement. But in short, I have collected a bunch of interesting questions which you, my subscribers, were asking me all the time, and I had to answer multiple times the same question, so I thought that it might be a good idea to make some sort of an educational test so people are getting aware of some technical details and learn something on their own. So, during the last few months I have collected some hardware which I first wanted to do some reviews and tests, but now I'm overwhelmed and I don't have capacity, so I decided to give it away. And to participate in this giveaway, you had this test to answer, and then the people who scored 10 plus points, 20 plus points, and 30 plus points in this test will be getting some hardware from me. What hardware we will be talking a bit later, but first, welcome everyone again, and if you have any questions, if the audio doesn't work, if the video doesn't work, just shoot me a comment. Meanwhile, I will go through some questions in the test and give you the answers. Another point is that this is my test and these are my answers. If you do not agree with my answers, it is okay. You can keep it the way you want it, and you don't have to agree with me. You can make your own test and you can give away your own hardware. I have collected these answers as educational material, and let's start with it. So first, let's see what we have in the chat. No questions, so we are going to proceed with the questions. Which CPU works with the DDR3 memory? Most of you, or at least frequent viewers of my channel, know that Xeon E5-2678v3 works with the DDR3 memory. But very few of you know that Core i7-6700K also works with DDR3 memory. Back in the days, we even had Z170 DDR3 motherboards. And we can see that there are indeed DDR3 motherboards for Z170 chipset, and Core i7-6700K works with the DDR3 memory. The next question is, which CPU can be overclocked with the CPU clock multiplier? This question is here because many of you are asking me how to overclock Xeon E5-2620, 2640, V3 and other locked CPUs. These CPUs have locked multiplier and there is no way to overclock them with a clock multiplier. In this particular case, we have a few unlocked Xeons. For example, E5-1620, the first one, the original one, is unlocked, you can overclock it. Unfortunately, the second version and the third version is locked, you cannot unlock it and you cannot overclock it with a clock multiplier. But E5-1650v3 is unlocked and can be overclocked if your motherboard supports that. So, the next question. Which motherboard has the best VRM? It's a rather simple question, you just have to follow my channel and watch my motherboard reviews and you would know the answer. Still, people are constantly asking me which motherboard would you suggest with the best VRM because I want a 12-14 core CPU or whatever. In this case, this ThinUE X99D4 has the best VRM, even though it's not the best motherboard, it has the best VRM out of these four. The other three have basically identical VRM. Clisre X99 version 201 and Machinist X99 RS9 have identical VRM, and ZD4 has the same components, but the location of the Mosfet doublers is under radiator. This means that the VRM temperature is slightly better because the VRM heatsink is also cooling down the doublers and not just the Mosfets. The next one, which motherboard can overclock CPU using clock multiplier? For CPU overclocking with a clock multiplier on LJ2011 version 3 platform, you need X99 or C612 chipset. Out of these four motherboards, it's Machinist X99 version 102 and Machinist X99K9. These two motherboards are available with X99 or C612 chipset. X99 RS9 and X99 G7 are coming with B85 chipset, and they do not have any overclocking capabilities. Next one, which CPU works with DDR4 ECC registered memory? Probably most of you know that Xeons work with ECC registered memory, but very few of you know that Core i7-5820K works with ECC registered memory as well. This is a unique Core i7, and I have tested multiple of these i7s. They do work with ECC registered memory. It's a rather complicated question, that's why I gave it 3 points. Now, Xeon E3 1230V3 is also a Xeon, but unfortunately Intel has locked ECC Rx support. Even though you can use ECC memory with Xeon E3, you cannot use ECC registered memory. And of course, i7-3770 doesn't work with ECC registered memory either. Next, Huananzhi X99 F8 motherboard does not start with 67 code on the LED indicator. What is this? This question I have got so many times that I already feel sick about it, but it is what it is. I need to help people, and in this case the problem is the RAM. People are getting this problem because Chinese X99 motherboards have some compatibility issues with the DDR4 memory, and when the memory is if the memory is not recognized, or if there are some compatibility issues, you will see 67 indicator on your LED indicator on the motherboard. The next one is very similar, but this time we have 5 loud beeps from the motherboard, and the motherboard refuses to start. In this case, the problem is with the graphics card, and also I have got this question multiple times. Many times this problem happens because the graphics card is installed into the motherboard without any support. If you, for example, we have here a graphics card. If you have a graphics card like this, you can see that it has support here, but it doesn't have anything on this side. And then it will lean like this, and the contact with the PCI Express slot will be too bad. The motherboard will not recognize the graphics card, and it will swear with 5 loud beeps. Next one, which CPU manufacturer is the best for gaming? This question is a bit ironic because some of you, or many of you, are often trying to convince me that Intel is garbage and AMD is the savory, or the other way around, AMD is garbage and Intel is the winner forever. This is complete nonsense. AMD, Intel, it doesn't matter. What matters is what you can buy for what price and what performance. This option, Xeon, is also a funny one because rather often people are turning to me and asking, can you please build me an affordable or budget-friendly gaming computer? I suggest them Xeon, and in return I hear something like, you know what, I like your computer, but instead of Xeon I would like to have Intel. Like, I just don't know what to say. Xeon is an Intel CPU, but for some reason people believe that Intel is Intel and Xeon is Xeon. Next one, which GPU brand works better with Xeon E5 CPUs? On my channel I have tested AMD RX 6800 XT and NVIDIA RTX 3080, and I have demonstrated that both of them are working basically identical with Xeon E5 CPUs. In this particular case, you need to look at which game you are playing and which task you are performing. In some cases AMD might be better, in other cases NVIDIA might be better, but in general it doesn't matter. And no, NVIDIA is not working better with Intel, and Radeon GPUs are not working better with Ryzen. Let me see if we have some questions in the chat. Okay, hello to everyone. And video sound okay, that's good. Hello, everything works beautifully, that's fine. There are even H310 DDR3 motherboards. Yes, I have seen these hybrid motherboards, they are cool. I came to see my ears. Okay, we will take a look at your ears a bit later. Have you thought about leaving only English on the channel? I thought about leaving only Ukrainian on the channel, but I think I would trade off too much of my audience if I remove English. I hope this answers the question. What stands for Miyconst? It's a long story, but in short, Miyconst came to me when I was in China, and it was a combination of my Chinese name and my real name. My real name Konstantin, and my Chinese name was Miyan. Then I think I put Huananzhi for the VRM question. Yeah, could be. I only found an answer for B7 here. Well, maybe that was B7 or 67, I'm not sure, but you feel Huananzhi, okay. This test is rigid, okay. Okay, question for later. Did you manage to test the X99 K9 version 2 to see if the issues were solved? Unfortunately, I did not have time for that yet. Right now, I already have 2 CPUs to test. I have 2 mutants which are already installed into 2 motherboards which I need to test. I need to make this live stream, and I have the X99 K9 with i7 5820K to test. I'm not sure what I'm gonna start with. My test score is 1. Congratulations for scoring a point. Those Chinese motherboard ear beeps are hard to crack. Okay, so these were all the questions. Let's move with the questions. What's true? Again, one more ironical question which has only 1 point. I guess most of the sane viewers, I'm not saying that everyone else is insane, but most of the people who have sane view on this question will understand that competition is good, and only competition between Intel and AMD can drag the prices down and bring the innovation, and it is important to always evaluate your market, not just AliExpress, to see what you have on the second hand, what you can buy in your local stores, and make a wise decision. You shall never lock yourself to I only buy Intel or I only buy AMD. You will end up being a stupid fanboy or a fangirl who is spending money for nothing. And in the long run, it will not even help you, because if you stupidly support one company, we will get stagnations such as we had between Core i7 3770K and Core i7 77K, where Intel was basically releasing the same CPU for almost a decade. The next one is about the games. Because the modern consoles have got an 8-core CPU, many people believe that from now on all the modern games will demand at least 8-core CPU, and that's why 12-core Xeon is better than a 6-core i5. This is absolutely false. Games do not demand a certain number of cores. Games demand CPU performance, and we can see that a Ryzen 5 5600X, which has only 6 cores, is comfortably beating 8-core, Core i7 and Core i9 CPUs from the 10th and 11th gen. Why it is so? It is because the CPU itself is more powerful. It happens that our technology does not let us overclock CPUs to 8 GHz or higher, but if technically we would be able to do that, a quad-core CPU which runs at 8-10 GHz would still be better than a 20-core Xeon which is running at like 2 GHz. So games do not require a certain amount of cores, instead games require a CPU performance. At the same time, it is much easier to optimize games to use only few cores, because when you have just few cores, you don't need to send work from one core to another core and then pick up result from one core to another core. You also don't need to bother with the synchronization. You're just saying, as a game developer, here is my unit, and this unit is supposed to do this sequence of operations, and your super fast single core can just do it one by one. I hope that was clear enough. So the next one, dual CPU systems. This is another very annoying subject. A few times I have got subscribers texting to me and sending pictures saying, I have bought a dual socket motherboard, I have bought a giant chassis, and I have got 2 liquid coolers to install into this giant chassis, and now I need to pick up 2 best gaming CPUs. And what the person did, the best gaming CPU is obviously i7, so they bought 2 i7 6800K, installed into the dual socket motherboard. It does not boot up, and they are contacting me. Of course, i7 CPUs will never work in a dual CPU configuration because they simply don't have such capability, but even if they would be able to work together, dual socket systems are not designed for gaming. For gaming you need a fast single CPU. Dual socket systems are made for a specific task which is designed to be able to utilize this many cores, this many memory channels, and this big amount of memory. So all in all, dual CPU systems are not good for streamers, they are not future-proof, they are awful for gaming, and they are only good for specifically optimized tasks to use with two CPUs. Let's see if I get some more questions. Chinese motherboard just calls your name in Chinese Morse code. Oh, okay, that's funny. Did you ever talk about the idle power consumption of this Xeon system? Not everyone is a gamer. Yes, I have tested idle power consumption quite a few times, and with the Turbo Boost unlock, which was with the previous method Turbo Boost unlock, idle power consumption was kinda bad. It was standing about 75 watt. But with the modern Turbo Boost unlock method, which is S3 Turbo 2, idle power consumption is staying between 45 and 55 watt, which is basically in line with the modern systems such as Ryzen and Core i3, i5 CPUs, so there is nothing dramatic. Anyway, I'm starting to get dry throat and I need to take a few sips of my drink. Another one for CPUs, GPUs, China is always cheaper in comparison to Brazil. Unfortunately, I don't know the prices in Brazil, so if it is so, then you need to check prices on AliExpress. If you like to change computers every 10 plus years, lack of competition is great. Software will work on anything. Well, from this point of view, maybe yes, but if you don't have competition, 10 years later, you will realize that to buy the same computer you bought 10 years later, you will have to pay double the price, or maybe even triple. I got two Fujitsu Rx 100S6 with one X3440 and 8 gigs of RAM for $100. Is it good of a deal? I don't know, depends if you have a use for this Fujitsu or no. I would say it was a bad deal because I don't have any use for this machine, but if you have a specific use for it, then why not? Okay, let's see. Okay, S3 sleep specifically. Most of the Chinese motherboards do not support S3 sleep state, so the idle power consumption is not possible to measure. You simply need to turn off your computer and then there is zero power consumption. I feel this is a class of enthusiasts. I'm not sure what it is about. Thank you so much. Your blog regarding Xeon EFI26v3 all-core turbo is very useful and save us lots of money. Thank you for the support and thanks for joining today. If these $100 are Norwegian dollars, then it was a good deal. What are your thoughts on Alder Lake? I'm really impressed with what Intel managed to pull off after years of being behind. They no-shrink schedule. Imagine if they had 10 nanometer 3 years ago as planned. Actually, I'm not surprised with the 12th gen from Intel at all. Of course, I'm very happy to see Intel back and Intel competing with AMD, but honestly, I was hoping that 12900K will beat Ryzen 5 5950X at least by 15%, but what we see is that in productivity and in gaming, sometimes one CPU is faster, sometimes the other CPU is faster, but power consumption of i9 12900K is astronomical. It's about twice as much as 5950X. I don't remember my score. It doesn't matter if you remember your score or no, but if you want to get to know the score, you can text me a little later and I will just check it in the scoreboard. Dual CPU configuration is bad for real-time workload. That's totally true. if you only use one CPU socket 100% FPS. Yes, but why would you spend money to buy the second CPU then? Love your videos, keep up the great work. Thanks a lot, and I will try my best. Next one, on which part of a gaming PC you can cheap out and save money? Again, this question is subjective. Some will say that none of the parts can be chipped out on, but if you're assembling a gaming computer, in my personal view, graphics card is the most important one. And power supply is also very important, because if you have a crappy power supply, your power-hungry graphics card will simply not work properly. Then RGB lights, you can throw this garbage out and don't buy it, don't waste your money. And CPU cooling is also something that you can cheap out on. People will argue that you need good CPU cooler, but I tell you what. If you buy Core i3 10100 or 10100F, even if you're buying Core i5 10400F, the Intel box cooler, which is a complete junk, but yet it is enough to run your CPU in games. It is probably enough to run the CPU for workloads if you undervolt your CPU and maybe slightly reduce the power consumption limit. In this case, even the Intel junk box cooler is enough. So you have to save some money to be able to afford an extra SSD or a better graphics card. Of course, if you have possibility to buy a better CPU cooler, do that at all means. I don't say that you don't have to, but this is something you can cheap out on. Another one is, what is M.2? M.2 is not an SSD standard and it is not NVMe standard. M.2 is just a physical expansion slot standard. We have Wi-Fi M.2 cards, we have SSD M.2s, M.2 SSDs, sorry, and we also have some other equipment which is getting into the M.2 slot. The problem here is that most of the people believe that M.2 SSD is a standard of a SSD. If the motherboard has M.2 slot, then I can buy an M.2 SSD. Reality is much more complicated. There are SATA SSDs and there are NVMe SSDs. And if your motherboard supports only SATA SSDs, then you will not be able to install NVMe SSD and the other way around. That's why I'm getting lots of questions where people buying incompatible hardware before checking the specification, putting everything together, it doesn't work or SSD is not recognized, and they are texting me with questions why it doesn't work. So the next question is, which chipset works with the QQLS mutant on LJ1151 platform? And here the answer is a bit tricky, because B365 works, Z370 works, but B360 and Z390 do not work. This is just how it is. B360 and Z390 chipsets are kinda next-gen chipsets, and they do not work with the LJ1151 mutants. Which motherboard supports DDR3 A part of all tested X99 motherboards from China, only 2 were able to overclock DDR3 memory to 2133. And these 2 are Huananzhi X99T8 and Huananzhi X99TF. All the other motherboards I have tested are limited to DDR3 1866. Is it possible to overclock memory using Multiplier with locked Xeon E5 V3 V4 CPUs? This is a tricky question because most of the motherboards cannot do that. Xeon E5 V3 V4 CPUs with locked multiplier have locked multiplier for memory overclocking as well. Intel has removed this ability, and with most motherboards it's not possible to do that. But there are a few very advanced motherboards which have a dedicated memory clock multiplier, and with this motherboard you can overclock memory even if you have something like E5 2620 V3. Probably DDR3 3000 will not be possible, but the DDR3 2666 or maybe DDR4 or DDR4 2800 shall be doable. The question is tricky, that's why I assigned it 3 points. And one more, memory timings are. This question is also because of my subscribers. They like to argue with each other, and they also like to try to prove some points which are not really useful to prove. Basically, If you have some branded memory such as Corsair or Kingston, you can enable XMP profile and that's it. Of course, if you manually tighten the memory timings, you will get slightly better performance. But in general, the branded memory kits have a default memory configuration with sane memory timings. Still, sometimes it happens that, for example, if you buy DDR4 3600, this memory might not have a good default configuration for DDR4 2133. Then you put this ultra-fast memory into your Xeon system and the maximum memory speed is DDR4 2133. Memory timings are completely screwed up by the Chinese BIOS and you're getting DDR4 2133, CL18 or CL12. And in this case, it can significantly impact gaming performance, and in this case, you need to manually tune it. The problem is that most of the Chinese branded memory sticks, such as Clisre, Maxun, Veneda, and other ones, they use random memory chips, and with random memory chips, they want to make it as compatible as possible. That's why they use disgustingly high timings. For example, you can have a DDR4 2400 kit with a timing such as CL20 or even CL22. This is significantly impacting gaming performance, and in this case, you need to do manual tuning. Okay, one more question about LJ1151 mutants. This time, which of the following chipsets can overclock the LJ1151 mutant QQLS? The trick here is that B365 chipset, according to Intel, is not able to overclock CPUs, which is a lie. Intel has just blocked this functionality for the K-series CPUs, which are not engineering samples. But B365 chipset can overclock unlocked mutants such as QQLS, QQLT, QTJ1, and QTJ0. Then Z-series, Z170, Z270 obviously can overclock CPUs. Z390 can overclock, but it is not compatible with the QQLS mutant. And the last is a funny question about my cat, because every time I add some B-roll of my cat into the video, I get 1 or 2 questions about what's my cat's name. That's why I have added it into here. The question is funny and easy to find the answer on Instagram, thus it's just 1 point. And the name is Zion. It's like the mountain Zion. It's not Xeon like this, or like this. It's Zion like the mountain. Additionally to this, I have got a bunch of secret questions, 1, 2, and 3. And there was one more bonus question, which is not taking part in this whole equation because it has 0 points. 1, 2, and 3, these were completely random numbers, and the answers were embedded into my videos, and here are the pictures. The first one, the second one, and the third one. So everyone who was able to figure out these numbers and fill up the correct answer would get some extra points. Ooh, I am getting dry in my throat again, so I'm gonna go back to the responses and probably read some of my questions in the chat, but before that I need a few. So let me get back to the chat and see if I get some more questions. Be right back, grabbing a couple of beers. Yeah, I also want a couple of beers. I have here one, and I have a backup plan. This one. So I did not cheap out on CPU cooling. Well, if you have enough budget in your PC build to get a good CPU cooling, by all means get a good CPU cooler. It will help your CPU stay cool. It will also help your ears to don't be annoyed with the fan sound. I bought a 600 watt generic power supply. The friend bought, or I bought, I can't really get it. His PC was shutting off after 2 hours with the GTX 1660. So far so good on my PC with the GTX 960 plus E5 2640 V3 unlocked. Well, That just proves my point. You do not cheap out on a power supply if you have a powerful graphics card. In one of you, I'm already starting to forget words. In one of your videos, you've said that the X99 8MF only uses 4 of its 6 VRAMs. Why is that? Wouldn't it be better for them to just add 4 VRAMs? Okay, so Huananzhi X99 8MF, let's find this motherboard. I have a bunch of tabs open here, but I need search. X99 8MF, let's see on this one. So it's this motherboard we are talking about. This motherboard has a VRM controller or PWM controller which has 4 phases, but underneath, under this radiator, they are using only 3 phases. Each phase has a doubler, so it's kind of like 6 phases, but it is fake phases, so there are 3 real phases, and with the doublers, they're turning into 6 phases. Of course, they could have used all 4 phases and make it with doublers to be 4 plus 4, 8, but it increases the cost and they just want to cheap out as much as possible. It's as simple as that. Okay, what do we have next? I use these Fujitsu Rx 100S6 for hosting something I like, a game server, and for remote storage with true NAS. Well, in that case, that's a good deal. Like, this machine probably is gonna work for 10 more years unless you screw up something with a power supply. My scoreboard must be really low. You never know until you check. We will see. How much do you think secondary timings affect performance compared to primaries, significantly or negligibly? Let me show you. So there are 2 specific timings which are affecting performance quite significantly, but the other ones are not that much. Let me see if I can find a screenshot where I had it. I need a screenshot of EFI 2640 V3, maybe it's in here. No, don't find it here. And not in here. Yeah, maybe here. No. Oh, where did I put it? Maybe it was in here. Let's see. Yes, it is this one. So TRFC and TRC. If you have possibility to set this one manually, it also contributes to performance, as well as these T-CAS latency, RP, RCD, and TRS. The rest, basically no effect, unless you have memory which has awful default values and you have to put it manually. Okay, let's go back to the test results and read some more questions. Congratulations on 2 years, love your channel. Thanks a lot. It was 2 hard years, but I try my best. It's getting a bit tricky this year because we don't have GPUs and it's pretty hard to make gaming oriented content if you can't even assemble gaming computers with no GPUs, but we are fighting through. I really don't understand memory timings. I thought only the megahertz matters, but then everybody started talking about the CL. Mine is DDR4 ECC 2133 at 1866. The timings are mostly CL13. Well, DDR4 1866 CL13 is not awful. It's kinda standard, but it's also not good. You can gain a few more FPS if you tighten it to CL11, and how to do that, I have a very straightforward video on how you do it. So for example, we can search Miyconst RAM timings, and we can see that there is a video which is going to tell you how exactly you do that. It's pretty simple few steps, and anybody can do that. Do you happen to know any mainboard which works with Intel Xeon QDCS stepping A4? Xeon QDCS, what is that even? Let me see if I can find it. No, unfortunately I don't even know what that Xeon is. I think I see my name, 6 points. Well, good luck next time, and do your homework better next time. Oh, how do I add my name to this spreadsheet? Your channel was inspiring for my build and been running 99% stable. Well, in the video description or in the stream description, there is a link to another video which is explaining what this contest is all about and how to participate. If you did not watch it, I am afraid it's a bit too late now to participate because the test is over. To make an analogy, the megahertz is the max speed of the on the road. The timings are the stops you have to do along the roads. Yeah, something like that, but I would rather say that you have a road, and on this road you have stops, and then you have multiple cars. All cars have to go from the beginning of the road to the end of the road and stop at each stop. The memory speed will be the maximum speed of the car, and the memory timings will be how fast the car can stop and start from each stop. You can have a car which has very fast or very high maximum speed, but it is stopping and accelerating very slow, and it will lose to the car which is like pretty average in speed, but it can accelerate and stop very fast. Yahoo! I made a live stream. Welcome to the live stream. I'm happy to see you here. What do you think about a dual power supply relay setup, an alternative to pricey power supplies with big wattage? I like this setup. If you can score 2 quality power supplies with like a low price tag, and you can put them into your chassis, or you can modify the chassis and connect them to work as a single unit, sure, do that. I do that pretty often when I need to test systems such as, for example, a Dell pre-build, and the internal power supply is awful to test with a graphics card, but I need to test with AMD RX 6800 XT. Then I connect the graphics card to an external power supply. Though I guess I will never really know if lower timings would make much difference for me, since I really don't know how to change them. Well, I just showed a video on my channel how you do that, which is pretty simple. Do you know if there is a way to make use of a server blade modules? I had a chance to get 6 modules for 50 euros, but I don't know if I will be able to power them without the case caddy. I would suggest to take a look on eBay and maybe on AliExpress. Maybe they have some extensions or maybe some connectors which would let you power them up, but unfortunately I can't really help here. Congratulations for the 2 years. I'm a fan of your channel. Thank you very much. And this channel basically exists just because of the viewers. Okay, let's see if there are any questions. I see a few more. Congratulations, and thanks everyone who is sending congratulations. I really appreciate it. I don't think I have enough time to read all of the messages, so I will just read the questions. Are you looking forward to Intel Arc Alchemist GPUs, hoping for the 3070 or 3070 Ti-like performance? Yes, absolutely. I'm looking forward to get Intel GPUs, and I will be fascinated to see the competition between 3 manufacturers in the GPU market. Moreover, I am looking forward for Nvidia to compete with AMD and Intel in the CPU market. That would be really awesome. Will you be releasing a new BIOS for the Huananzhi X99FA that can be flushed with the software as the one on your GitHub no longer works on the latest revision? I am not going to release any more BIOS because I am not making the BIOSes. I don't have technical knowledge to do that, but iEngineer on GitHub has already made a new BIOS for the updated X99F8 motherboard, so feel free to go to his page, download the BIOS. He says that you definitely need to use a programmer device to flush this BIOS. I have not tested it myself, thus I don't know, but I would suggest you to follow his recommendation and use a CH341A or a similar one to flush the BIOS. Just found your channel 2-3 days ago. Love seeing the content. Any thoughts on QTJ2 versus QQLT on a B150 board? So this is a pretty simple. QQLT can be overclocked. QTJ2 cannot be overclocked. If your B150 motherboard has very bad VRM and you do not plan to overclock, go with QTJ2. If you have a semi-decent VRM and you want to do some overclocking, go with QQLT. Okay. Yahoo, you're alive. Yes, I am live. Thanks for coming. Are you playing Battlefield 2042? Yes, I do play Battlefield 2042, but unfortunately with my GPU, which is Titan V, here you can see I'm right now streaming with my Titan V. I don't have any issues with this graphics card in any other game, but in Battlefield 2042 it just crashes. So I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I will buy another graphics card, or maybe I will find something new, but I tried all possible solutions I can find online. The game just keeps crashing and it's very annoying. I'm looking forward for those Intel GPUs. Also my RX 56 gets old, but it still handles a lot of games. I just hope the Intel prices them well. Yes, absolutely. I also hope that the GPU prices will somehow stabilize and go down at least a little bit. RX 56 is or RX 560 is a rather weak GPU. It still can handle some games and probably even some modern games at 720p, maybe 1080p low quality, but in general I agree it's time to upgrade. Do you think for 60 euros Untcountry X99 SD4 would be a decent choice? Which exactly X99 SD4 we are talking about? In general, I have tested two Untcountry motherboards. Both of them were pretty bad, and for 60 euros I would definitely not buy it. A few more sips of beer. Okay, I guess I have answered all the questions in the queue, and now it's time to go back to the giveaway. On the Ukrainian stream, I have given away this GTX 960 with a dead HDMI output and another GTX 960 with all functioning output slots. So if you're interested in watching some content in Ukrainian, even though you don't understand it, welcome there. But in the English version, I'm going to give away 3 sets of motherboard plus CPU, and the best set will also contain 3 sets have motherboard, CPU, memory, and the last one also has an SSD drive. So the first one will be given away to subscribers who have scored at least 10 points in the test. And we have got, how many of them? We have got 177 subscribers who have submitted the test and scored 10 plus point. So people who scored these are going to get this Klysre motherboard. Let me open it, and if my microphone is going to sound very weird while I open the box, please let me know and I will mute myself so it doesn't sound too bad for you. So here is the motherboard. Unfortunately, I did not have time to make a proper review of this motherboard, but I have tested and most of the functionality is working as expected. Temperature sensors don't work, sleep mode doesn't work, and for this particular motherboard I was not able to find any BIOS which would allow me to adjust memory timings, and overclock CPU past 3.9 GHz with E5 1650. That's why I combine this Klysre X99. It's called X99Z version 2.4F_C. So this motherboard will be combined with Xeon E5 2689, and 2 sticks 8GB each DDR3 from Corsair 1866. I have tried to overclock this memory to DDR3 2133 on the other motherboard. This one supports maximum DDR3 1866, but these Corsair sticks are not working DDR3 2133 either way, so it's not that much of a loss. So, awesome to finally catch you live. I love your content. Thanks a lot. Maybe in the future I will try to be live a bit more often, but I can't promise that, and thanks for coming up. Anyway, let's go back to the giveaway and pick the winner in the 10 plus category. It was 177, so we are going to the random number generator. I had it over here, and I am going to put it 179 because I have figured that the random number generator will not pick the first and the last number very often. That's why I have it slightly below the minimal value and slightly up the maximum value. But if I get a number which is less than 2, I will do another round. And if I get a number which is bigger than 178, I will make another round. Let's make it like this. And there we go. 116. Who is under the number 116? And we have, I guess I'm going to pronounce the name absolutely and completely wrong. This I probably will not try, but this is Lewis, but the Seth or Seth, sorry, I honestly don't know how to correctly pronounce this name. Anyway, the score is 20 points out of 46 points, and we mark him as a winner in this particular category. Let's see if Lewis has left me any comment. Yes, he has left me a comment. Your channel was an awesome find. I absolutely love your content, dude. Keep up, man. You're awesome. Thanks a lot, and congratulations for winning this particular motherboard. If for some reason you cannot accept a package from Sweden, or you don't want this motherboard for whatever reason, we are going to pick up a backup winner, which is going to be number 5. Number 5, and number 5 is Oleg. Let's put him as a backup winner and see if Oleg left me a message. Good job, thanks for your work, it's been really helpful. You're welcome, I hope it was helpful. I'm not going to congratulate Oleg because it's unlikely that Lewis will decline the package, but there is a chance that for some reason Lewis will decline the package and then it will go to Oleg in Ukraine. Let's see if I got any more questions. Hello everyone, I want to build a server workstation, minimum 16 cores, planning to virtualize a NAS workstation, etc. What would I use to LGA 2011 2670 V2 or LGA 2011 3 EFI 2696 V3 with DDR3? My answer would be definitely X99 with the DDR3 if you need to use DDR3 to save money. Exciting times. Is there a way for us to view our scores on your blog, perhaps? I will think about it. Maybe I will publish a page with all the scores so people can find their results, but it sounds like a good point. Oh, bummer. Can I do the test for fun? I'm late to the party. Okay, maybe join my Discord and send me a message on Discord. I will send you a link where you can finish the test if you wish to, but since I have already told the answers, I don't really see a point of completing the test again. I am watching on a 17-inch CRT monitor. I can't read the names very well. Do people still use 17-inch CRT monitors? I know there are some crazy CSGO communities which are using these monitors for gaming, but are you one of those? It's not me, but the pronunciation was not bad. Well, I tried. Okay. Those are questions. I was answering the survey when they closed it. Oh no, well, I have made an announcement a few days ago that the test will be closed on Thursday, so I'm sorry, but it happens. Okay, so now we are going to the 20 plus category, and let me move the old box somewhere else so I can have free space for the next box. The next box is going to be a Huananzhi X79 motherboard, and I think here we're gonna start with some AliExpress links. So originally I was buying this motherboard for a review because it says that it is X79 chip, and I explicitly wanted to get a LJ2011 motherboard with X79 chip. Instead, Chinese sent me this motherboard, and when I complained, too bad for me, the buyer's protection was out by then when I actually had time to go and complain. They just told me that this motherboard is better than this one and that I shall be happy that I have got a better motherboard. Indeed, right now this one costs more than this one, and I'm not sure how bad is this one, but anyway, this is the motherboard I'm going to give away for the 20 plus winner. Here with this motherboard I have done full testing, and I have found a good BIOS which lets you overclock memory, which lets you overclock your CPU. With this motherboard I am giving away a 1650 which can be overclocked to 4 plus gigahertz, and it comes with the same 16 gigs of DDR3 memory. It's the same Corsair memory modules, which unfortunately don't go above DDR3 1866, but with the modded BIOS, this motherboard can run DDR3 2133. So, the biggest problem of this motherboard that I found is that the first PCI Express slot, for some stupid reason, simply refuses to work at anything faster than PCI Express version 1.1. I have tried all possible solutions and it just not working faster than PCI Express 1.1. The second slot, this one, it works properly fine, PCI Express X16 3.0, but the first one is just stuck at PCI Express 1.1. It is extremely annoying, and I was trying to solve the solution. I was trying to contact the seller. Of course, I did not get any feedback from them, but it is what it is. I'm just telling you who is going to get this motherboard that you need to install your graphics card into this lower slot to get the full speed. So let's go back and see how many 20 plus winners or participants, not winners. It is 67 of them, and going back to the random number generator, 67, let's make it 70. And generating 22. Who is number 22? And number 22 is Silvio Cocolas or Cocolas. Not sure how do I say that name correctly. Sounds a bit Brazilian if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, marking the 22 number as the winner. He has scored 23 points out of 46, and let's see if there is a note from me. Nice things and thoughts that you transmit us. Keep them up if you enjoy doing this. Thanks for everything, it's a big effort. I appreciate it. You are welcome, and thank you very much for support. This channel is basically existing because of you, my viewers, my subscribers, and my supporters. I probably would have just cancelled uploading videos and working on them without you, but I just always opening Discord, reading some comments, and I find some nice feedback from you, and I always get some extra motivation to keep doing this stuff. But sometimes it's getting pretty rough, pretty frustrating, to be honest. Okay, so congratulations to Silvio Cocolas. And we need to pick a backup winner in case if he will not be able to pick a package from Sweden for tax reasons, or if he just refuses to take it. And the backup winner will be number 13. Number 13 is Serhiy from Ukraine. Let's put him up as the backup winner, not saying any congratulations because it is unlikely that he will get the package. There is no note available, so nothing to read. But if for some reason Kokolas will not be able to pick the package, Sergey from Ukraine is gonna get it. So let me see if I have some more questions. Oh, Lewis is here. Congratulations for winning. I think in such giveaways, no one is expecting to win, and then just someone happens to win. That's just how it works. Do you have plan on doing content on cheap GPU alternatives? Tesla K20, K40, M40 ones. I already have a video about Tesla M40 and Tesla K20, K40 definitely are not worth it. Also, your pronunciation was good. Thank you. What do I think of a Vanada graphics card? Are they real? I think we will leave this question after or let's just answer it. Vanada. No, it was Vanada GDX. Let's see. So I assume that you're asking about these graphics cards. So Chinese are not making graphics card chips. They are only making coolers and PCBs. The GPU die itself is picked up from some dead computers, dead pre-builds, dead graphics cards, and you never know how long this graphics card is gonna work. Personally, I would not buy it, and the price is also not great at all. I have got some feedback where people saying that these graphics cards are working for a few months and then just dying completely, others saying that they are getting artifacts on the screen, and others are saying that such graphics card is working for me for a year and it's all fine. My personal opinion, I would stay away from these graphics cards because the quality of this GPU die itself is so random. You better be with some Asus MSI or Gigabyte GTX 960 or even 950 on your local second-hand market. Okay, maybe Kokolos is Romanian. Maybe. Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with the Romanian language and Romanian names, so maybe it is. Thanks for the effort. Your content is unique and valuable. Thanks a lot. Like, seriously, such comments are bringing me motivations and help me keep working on this channel. I was one number below. Happens. I did not win anything. Okay, let me move this second place prize out somewhere so I can have place for the last winning prize. And the last winning prize will be also in such X79 Schwan weight box, but it is not X79. This one is X99. Let me take it out and show you. So this is the Schwanwei X99S, which I have reviewed on the channel. It comes with the E5 2640 V3 inside here, modified BIOS, Turbo Boost unlocked, 2 sticks, 8GB each, DDR4 2133 ECC registered memory, and a 256 gigs NVMe SSD. So this is gonna go to the winner in the 30 plus category. Let's put it back in so I don't accidentally spill my beer on top. And we go to the 30 plus category. In the 30 plus category, we have only 19 participants, so the likelihood of winning here is higher, but it's still not guaranteed because I have just one motherboard for 19 participants. Let's see, maybe I just need to wait and prolong my stream just for the sake of people staying there. Nah, I don't have to. Okay, so the winner will be under number 15. And number 15 is Yevgeny from Ukraine. My congratulations to Yevgeny from Ukraine. Let's see if Yevgeny has left me a note, and if yes, we're gonna read it. Yes, he has left me a very nice note, but it is in Ukrainian, thus I'm going to translate it so people who do not understand Ukrainian can also read it. You create unique, high-quality content, and it's very nice that you do it in Ukrainian, although I always watch you twice, English and Ukrainian. You have a lot of information that you can't find elsewhere. I wish you health, strength, and success in development. Thank you very much, and I hope my videos are useful and sometimes just maybe funny, maybe entertaining, but mostly useful and technically correct. Congratulations to Yevgeny, but if for some reason he will not be able to get a package from me, we need to pick another winner, and another one will be under number 12, and it is Alex, also from Ukraine. Okay, putting Alex as the backup winner. And let's see if Alex left me a note. That was a bit too far. Thanks for awesome educational content. You're welcome. So in case if Yevgeny cannot get the package, Alex is going to get the package. Other than that, congratulations to Yevgeny, and we have decided with the giveaways for this live stream. If you're interested, I can stick around for a little longer and answer some questions. Otherwise, it's probably time to wrap up the live stream unless there will be some questions to answer. So close but so far. By the way, I want to buy next year Huananzhi X99 FAD. Is it a good motherboard for a workstation? Any ideas? Again, the question is, why do you want to buy Huananzhi X99 FAD? Do you have a specific workload which can utilize 2 Xeon CPUs? And are you sure you really need 2 Xeon CPUs? Maybe you will be much better with a Ryzen 9 3950X or maybe a Ryzen 9 5900X. Think about it. The price ultimately will be very similar, but with the Xeon you have possibility to get much more memory. With Ryzen you're getting a much better platform and much newer CPU with a much better IPC. What was the highest score possible? The highest score possible was 46 points, and we can see here, I can go to the best scores. So the best score in this test was 39 points out of 46 points. Why do you think the Chinese motherboard manufacturers like Huananzhi only reach so far to use X99 chipset and not yet produce motherboard with X299 chipset? Thank you. Well, the answer is very simple. When Intel was producing X79 and X99 chipsets and platforms, CPUs, whatever, AMD was somewhere very, very far behind, and all data centers were using Intel CPUs. That's why we have a whole pile of leftovers of these old Xeons. With X299, AMD started to be very competitive, and the data centers and the other server consumers are starting to migrate to AMD EPYC CPUs, and Intel simply did not sell that many X299 compatible CPUs. Moreover, with X299 platform, Intel was a bitch. Like, forgive me for my language, but seriously, Intel just blocked compatibility between Xeon CPUs on X299 motherboards. Chinese would have to figure out how to bypass this limitation, but maybe it is a hardware limitation. In that case, it's going to be much harder. But two reasons. First, there is way less Xeon for X299 platform. Second, X299 chipset is not compatible with Xeon CPUs on LGA 2066 platform. Okay. Do you know if any Chinese motherboards pin home? I don't quite understand the question, sorry. I wanted to ask you if, in your opinion, X79 is still a budget choice. A friend of mine broke an LGA 1156 motherboard and having already the DDR3 RAM. Well, if he really badly wants to use the DDR3 RAM, then I would rather suggest to go with the X99 G7. This motherboard, it's actually is already on the way to me, but it is still somewhere stuck between China and Sweden, so I cannot make a review for this motherboard. And you combine it with E5 2666 V3. This is an awesome CPU, which right now costs just under 50 euros, and it works with the DDR3 memory. 10 cores, 3.5 GHz maximum turbo. It is even better than E5 2678 V3 for gaming. Any plans to do something like 12600K versus X99? So far, I don't have such plans, but I have a plan to review, or at least I'm thinking to review this engineering sample of i9-12900 CPU. The price is not that great. It cost more than 300 euros, and also shipping to Sweden plus Swedish taxes, it will be expensive. Thus, I have not yet decided if I'm gonna test it or no. Also, the motherboards are rather expensive, so if you're interested to see tests of this CPU, please let me know in the comments or in Discord, and maybe it will help me decide to actually spend this much money to buy this engineering sample. I thought of making him take a 2011 motherboards and a 2650 V2. Well, that is a viable option, but I would probably skip it unless he is very tight on money. But yeah, X79 plus 2650 V2 is a viable alternative to 1156, which is dead, as you say. Greetings from Chile and greetings back from Sweden. What do you prefer, old Xeons or Mutants? The problem is that I cannot just compare old Xeons or Mutants. The thing is that we need to compare entire platform. As CPU itself, I would pick a Xeon because Mutants, you need to do a modified BIOS. They are using additional Chinese PCB, and that PCB might be problematic. But when you combine Xeon with the Chinese X99 platform, or a Xeon with the Chinese X99 motherboard, or a Mutant CPU with a branded motherboard, in my opinion and in my experience, overall Mutant plus B365, B150 or B250, maybe even H110 motherboard is a better experience with less issues and with less tweaks and compromises you have to do to make it work properly. I found your channel 2 years ago when I was buying a used PC, although I could never order Chinese stuff because of customs tax due to India-China conflict. I learned a lot from you, thank you. It is very sad to see that China is now trying to make conflicts with all the neighbors, but I hope it's going to be resolved, and I hope India will be able to buy stuff from China as well. Thank you very much for the support, and thanks for sticking around for 2 years. Any Chinese graphics card you recommend? No. Answer is simple, no. Every Chinese motherboard has a quantum entangled chip on it that sends all the data. It proceeds on the motherboard immediately and FTL directly to the Chinese authorities. I'm not sure the Chinese authorities are that advanced to inject quantum computers on the garbage Chinese motherboards, but I see your point. There is always a security risk when you are buying stuff from China. The i9 sample won't work. Linus made a video about them. Seriously? Linus already made a video about this i9 and I didn't see it. Let me see. Huh. No, I don't seem to find anything on YouTube with this i9. If you know, or if you have a link to the video, please just send it to me on Discord. Why don't we ever see companies like Huananzhi make AMD motherboards? Well, I think there are two answers. First, we do see. Let's take a look. B450. And let me find some. For example, here you have a colorful motherboard which has AM4 socket and B450 chipset, so we do see. And second is because AM4 motherboard is designed for budget-oriented, or actually not only budget-oriented builders, but it is a current modern platform, and the competition is very high. Chinese manufacturers simply will not be able to compete with manufacturers such as MSI, Asus, ASRock, and with X99, nobody is producing motherboards for X99, so they can do whatever crap they want and it will still sell because we have so many cheap Xeon CPUs. Often bought broken video cards that were sold as working. No, only happened to me once, but the guy did not say that it was working. He said that it was working the last time he tested it, and when I took the video card home it was not working, so I told him and he refunded me the money, so I bought it once but I was not scammed. Are you in Sweden? I was assuming you were from and working living in Russia. Thank you. Well, I live in Sweden and I'm from Ukraine. I have basically nothing with Russia. So I make videos in Ukrainian and English and I live in Sweden. Okay, I can spend at most 100 euros. You said the X79G and the X79 Turbo are not good motherboards. What do you recommend as a cheap X79 version 282? Yes, X79 version 282 with the USB 3.0 and and SATA 3.0 is the best option so far. Let me see if I can find that motherboard. I think it was this one, but let me zoom in and see if it's... No, it's not the 282, it's X79 6M. It doesn't have USB 3.0, so it's not... Definitely not that one. This one is selling a kit with the... Okay, this is something else. I don't think I have seen this motherboard before, so I can't really comment on it. But let's see what is this one. This is 272 and we are looking for 282, but as far as I remember 272 was also a decent one. Let's see what is this one. Again, this one is X79 6M. Maybe they have upgraded it, I'm not sure. But let's see if we have... No, we don't have USB 3. I remember I was able to find these motherboards. Okay, maybe it's this Machinist. Let's see, I can't see the version number. Yes, so this Machinist is so far the only X79 motherboard that I can safely recommend. It has more or less decent quality. It has SATA 3.0, it has USB 3.0, it has quad memory channel, and a semi-decent build quality. So this one I could recommend, but again, I see no point in buying this one if you can buy just X99 G7 instead. Like, the price will be just a little bit higher than 100 euros, but I think it is worth it. Okay, just want to write that too, but okay, that was not to me. I sent a link on Discord. Let me see if I get any links on... Okay, so... I have got Linux, or not Linux, Linus video about the sketchy Intel CPU. Well, let me see if he has a picture of what that CPU is, because I have a contact in China who is actually legit, and he is supplying me, or at least he was in the past supplying me with some different engineering sample CPUs, and they all were working. Like, this of course looks like a complete garbage, like this is a straight up scam, but I know that the one that my contact in China is selling, those are definitely working ones. And when I'm buying from AliExpress, I can of course complain and get my money back. To me, the best manufacturer of these Chinese motherboards is Huananzhi, which is the best for you, or maybe the depend on specific motherboard. Okay, so here's the thing. The factory which is producing Huananzhi motherboards is also producing many other garbage motherboards. Huananzhi is just a brand, and they are trying to be positioning themselves somehow as a premium Chinese brand. They are at least somehow trying to do quality control, but they are also getting a rather high number of dead motherboards compared to something like MSI or Asus. And even though they are better than the other Chinese brands, they are still not as good even as ASRock. And ASRock is probably the worst from the known brands such as MSI, Gigabyte, Asus, and what else do we have? I guess these three ones are the main ones. Okay, so what do we have more? I'm more interested in undervolting the processor to reduce CPU temperature. Is this possible with the X79 or X99? Thank you. With the Chinese motherboards, it's not possible, unfortunately. Greetings from Germany, greetings back from Sweden. With the new CPU being launched and price per core, both Intel and AMD decreasing, if availability and price normalizes, will this old CPU whole business become obsolete in 5 years? Yes and no. It all comes down to the price. You will be surprised to know of how many people are not able to afford a new computer. And if you can get a decent computer with a decent CPU for half the price, then why not? Also, these are properly functioning, working electronical units. I don't see a reason why you shall throw them. Okay, thank you very much. I will talk to him and look forward to your review of the X99 G7 to make sure it's okay. Yes, absolutely. I have not yet tested the X99 G7, but from what I can find online, this motherboard is basically the same as Machinist X99 RS9, but it uses DDR3 memory instead. So if I go here, we can look for X99 RS9. This is basically the same motherboard as this one, but X99 RS9 uses DDR4 memory, while X99 G7 uses DDR3 memory. Ryzen 3 3300X and 3100X are basically impossible to find. I had a chance only once to buy a Ryzen 3 3300X, but unfortunately that time I did not have any capabilities to test it, so I sold it in a gaming build. I love ASRock and EVGA, of course. Oh yeah, I completely forgot EVGA. Yes, EVGA I like as well, ASRock I like as well, but they definitely do lower quality boards than MSI, Asus and Gigabyte. In particular, they really love to chip out on VRAM. Is it possible to apply undervolting but without turbo unlock on Chinese X99 motherboards? Yes, it is possible if you use a tool called S3 Turbo Tool. S3 Turbo Tool. So there is such thing as a S3 Turbo Tool. Unfortunately, the guide is in Russian, but this tool can make a modded BIOS with undervolting and without turbo boost unlock. Okay, I hope that was clear enough. Is an i3-10100 with a 5 series chipset recommended? Absolutely. If you can find a cheap B560 motherboard, i3-10100 with the DDR3 3000 or higher is a very good combo, and right now even on AliExpress you can find these for really good money. i3-10400F, for example. See, this one cost less than 80 euros, and even on AliExpress you can find a B560 motherboard for somehow decent money. So for example, this one, I'm thinking if I shall review it or not, and this one as well. But in general, you can find the B560 motherboards in your local stores for around 100 euros. This one looks attractive and the price is also attractive. I'm thinking to buy one for review, but I have not decided yet. So if you're interested, leave me a comment in the video comment section or in the chat, and I will see what I can do about it. What system do I have now? I can show what I have now. I have i9-10850K. Actually, I'm already thinking for a while to make a video what I feel and why I have switched from Xeon EFI2698 V3 to i9-10850K. Then I have 64 gigs of memory, and I have NVIDIA Titan V as the graphics card, and a bunch of SSDs, HDDs, as you can see. So I have also collected a bunch of questions which I was unfortunately not able to answer from people who were texting me. The last few weeks I was completely overwhelmed with lots of different stuff, so I apologize for not being able to answer the questions, but I will try to answer it right now. So this one, it all comes down to which DDR4 ECC modules do I recommend from AliExpress. Let me close all of this stuff so I can have some space in my Mozilla Firefox. Let's see, AliExpress DDR4 ECC rack. Again, this ClearSRAM memory, it should work, but I would never be able to recommend it before I test it myself. Also, Chinese are using random memory chips, so even if you buy, like you pick this 8 gigs, 2133, and you click here 2, the memory chips that you get might have physically different memory chips soldered on the PCB. That's why I cannot recommend any of these Chinese memory sticks. Of course, you can still buy them, and most likely it's gonna work. You can also text to the seller and ensure them, or make sure that they send you identical memory modules. But if I would be to buy from AliExpress, I would probably buy these Samsung ones. That's what I can recommend. Okay, let's go to the next question. I have bought an X99 motherboard, and the X99 motherboard is this one, built a server. For purposes of machine learning, I have a single NVIDIA K80 card, need to configure the BIOS to allow for the option called 4G encoding, and something called resizable bar. I do not see any of these options in the BIOS. Okay, let's see what this motherboard is first. Come on now. Okay, I think I have missed here a letter. So let's see if it's... Okay, so this is Machinist X99 K9. I can assure you that this motherboard does not have any option for a resizable bar, and it most likely will never have it. But the above 4G decoding can be available with the BIOS from iEngineer. Let's see, BIOS iEngineer. He has made a BIOS for X99 version 201, or sorry, 102. Where is it? Where is it? Yes, here it is. So this BIOS for Machinist X99Z version 102 is compatible with Machinist X99 K9, and that BIOS should have above 4G decoding, but I also cannot guarantee that. The next question, motherboard Huananzhi X99 TAD, 2 Xeon EFI2678 V3, 12 cores, 24 threads, and Windows 10 can only see one of the two CPUs, but in the BIOS, both of them are visible. Well, in this case, you have either something wrong with the motherboard, either something wrong with the CPU, or something wrong with the contact between the CPU and the motherboard. I would suggest to start with removing the CPUs from your socket, cleaning the CPUs with a clean spirit. Here it is important to do not use hand sanitizers, because the hand sanitizers might have some extra additions, and those extra additions may clog your CPU contacts. Just use clean spirit, which you can buy in a pharmacy. Clean the CPU pads, bottom of the CPU, let the CPU dry for a few minutes, put it back, make sure that the tightening of your CPU socket is correct, and see if that solves the issue. If the issue is not solved, Then try to swap your CPUs and see if the other CPU is detected in the working socket. And in this case, you can identify if it is a problem with the CPU or with the motherboard socket. So just got this no-name brand for AliExpress, from AliExpress. So this motherboard, it's working great with the two EFI2660V3. Can you point me which BIOS to flush to turbo unlock it? Okay, so I cannot guarantee that this is exactly the same motherboard, but I think it is this one. We can search for Miyconst X99 Dual. I think we are talking about this motherboard. So again, this is version 1.11 and you seem to have version 1.12, so I cannot guarantee that the BIOS is compatible, but if I would have to guess, I would say it's that one. I followed your instruction for turbo boost unlock, and the frequency of 2.8 to 2. Instead of 2.3, that's all good. Okay, so what's the question? But then I had to reinstall Windows because of my system disk beginning to be too small, and I saw that Huananzhi had an update for the BIOS, so I redid the once for all turbo boost, but since I only can get up to 2.8 GHz and reverting to the original modded BIOS doesn't change anything. I think what has happened is that the updated Huananzhi BIOS is somehow not compatible with this turbo boost unlock procedure, and in this case what you have to do, you have to buy a CH341A or another programmer and just do a hard flash of entire BIOS. After that, boot into Windows, restore BIOS defaults, save it, reboot into Windows, and you shall get your 3.1 GHz speed again. Okay, the other one, I got Plex X99 Turbo with this undervolting. It does go to 3991 GHz on all cores, and it's good. I'm not sure what CPU can go to up to 4 GHz. Are there locked CPUs which are going to 4 GHz? Okay, so the question is about the BCLK. First thing first, I don't know any Chinese X99 motherboards which would be able to overclock or adjust BCLK frequency on in the BIOS or not in the BIOS. It's just not working on the Chinese X99 motherboards. BCLK 99.7 is the standard fluctuations, and I would not bother about it. And no, you cannot get it above 100 MHz. It's just how it is. Still, if you're interested to search for different BIOS mods for these motherboards, you can search for Xeon, this website, and this is the motherboard, and you can check different BIOS options there, of course, if you're interested to experiment and if you're not afraid to break your motherboard. And the last question is, so again we are getting that dual socket motherboard, and I think, yeah, the comments I have disabled on my blog because I have got so much spam that I got sick of trying to filter it out. Okay, so undervolting of the CPUs is not necessary, but is nice. And if you are looking, for example, if we go to GitHub, and then we go to my Mi899 application, if we go to sources and then data, and then we have BIOSes. So here are different numbers. These numbers are voltage reduction in millivolts, and the lower voltage, the less stable your system will be. Some CPUs can withstand higher undervolting, others don't accept any undervolting. If you reduce voltage of your CPU, the CPU will consume less power while working on the same frequency, or it will be able to consume the same amount of power and work at a higher frequency. That's why you need to find a perfect balance with the stability and clock frequency. For example, the safe default value would be minus 50 millivolts. Most of the CPUs can hold up such undervolt and be stable, but it helps reduce power consumption, which means the TDP limitation of the CPU will not be hit very fast, and your Turbo Boost Unlocked CPU will stay at the higher clock frequency for a bit longer. Then, the second part of the question is about this hack PC 1.9 volts. This, as far as I know, this hack is to try to bypass the CPU TDP limitation. In my testing, it doesn't help at all. It only increases power consumption a lot, but does not affect performance much. So if you're willing to experiment, buy a CH341A and just to do all the experiments and find the best option for you. But I would not bother. I would just get the standard minus 50 and would be fine with it. Maybe minus 70 is also a good option. Okay, so these were all the questions from my email addresses, Discords, and all the stuff that I didn't answer. Let me see if there is something interesting in the chat, and then probably gonna wrap up. Is it possible to resolder and swap the Mosfets of a VRM to better ones for better efficiency? Yes, absolutely it is possible. If you have soldering equipment, if you have better Mosfets, and if you have technical knowledge and technical capabilities of doing that, yes, you can definitely do that. The two of my favorite tech tubers in one place. So, Craft Computing is here. Welcome, welcome. And hi, Jeff. Somehow it is a bit impersonating, like Craft Computing, but then I remember that you're Jeff from Craft Computing, so welcome here and thanks for visiting the live stream. Mozilla Firefox is the best for me. By the way, because of the application from a smartphone, prices can be lower. Oh, yes, sometimes on AliExpress there is a weird thing that if you're buying from AliExpress, from AliExpress mobile application, the price might be slightly lower than if you're buying the same stuff from the website. It is very silly, but what I do, I browse AliExpress application using my mobile app, I find what I want, I add it to the cart, and then I go to my desktop computer to complete the order. Above 4G decoding works on that board. Yes, above 4G decoding most likely works, but resizable bar, no. Oh, look, Jeff has joined. Yes, absolutely. Jeff has joined. That's very nice of him. And maybe someday I'm going to send him some Swedish local beers so he can use it in his videos and give his opinion if Swedish beer is crap or something decent. Anyway, I need to take a few sips. So, for the CPU not recognizing in Windows, it's possible they are using Windows 10 Home, which is limited to a single CPU socket. Pro or higher SKU is needed for two sockets. Yes, absolutely. I totally forgot about Windows Home, that it is limited to just a single CPU. Jeff, you are absolutely right. Windows Home will not see two CPUs at the same time. You need Windows Pro or Windows Enterprise Edition. Thank you very much. What mutants you will be testing now, and have you seen any mutants for LGA1200? Unfortunately, I have not yet seen any LGA1200 mutants, and right now I'm working on a comparison between Mutant Q and CT. It is a 6-core, 12 threads, 3.3 GHz. I'm going to compare it to QL2X or QL3X, I don't remember, but this one is 4 cores, 8 threads, and you can overclock it to about 4.5 gigahertz. So it's kind of like i7 6700K, and it's gonna be an interesting comparison. Xeons and beer, a man after my own heart. Yeah, exactly. Or maybe Xeons and bears, polar bears. Okay, I think this stream is running a bit longer than I expected. Thank you everyone for joining. Again, my congratulations for today's winners. Luis for the 10 plus category. Then we have Silvio Cocolas for 20 plus. And we have Yevgeny for 30 plus points. You will receive my emails shortly after the stream if I'm not too exhausted, or maybe tomorrow if I get too exhausted and just fall asleep. Otherwise, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for questions. Thank you for comments. See you somewhere, someone on YouTube, on Discord, on Instagram, or maybe in real life. Have a great weekend. Bye bye.